Hello everyone, I wanted to do a little tutorial about how I make these journal covers. I've fallen in love with these, and I also made, somebody asked me, I donated to Scotty's auction, and I made the little tiny books that I'd used a Coptic stitch, and I did the same process on playing cards. So you can do it on playing cards, you can do it, I'm going to do it on a envelope, you could do it on a file folder, pretty much any paper surface. So we're going to take this and make it kind of look like faux leather. And I love it. So, oh, I also started doing it on some flashcards. So that's an option too. So the first thing you'll need is a surface, and you will need some paint eventually. I have some Deco Art paints. So in a dark, medium, and a light. This is Bittersweet Chocolate. This is Burnt Sienna, and this is Honey Brown. So it is a beautifully sunny day and somewhat warm here, so I opened the window. A month ago it was snowing, so, you know, we're just happy to see the sun. Anyway, so you'll also need something to crinkle up and put on top. I just happen to have some brown tissue paper, but you could use a paper bag. You could use any colored tissue paper. White would be great. Something that doesn't bleed. You know, that bleeding tissue paper is not the best. You could use paper bag. This is packing material that I got, like when you get a package, and this is also really awesome to use. You could just use paper. It doesn't matter. And then I'm going to use Mod Podge to glue it on, but you could use any kind of liquidy glue. I like matte Mod Podge, so that's what I'm going to be using. And so let's see, how did I create it? Yes, so I cut it a little bit bigger than the actual, you could tear it too, than the actual surface, because I'm going to fold it over. So I'm just not measuring. I'm so in love with all the tutorials that I watch that don't measure and don't give measurements. It just makes me feel so much better. Okay, so that's going to be, it's a little big, but it'll kind of squinch up. I'm going to go get my brush. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my brush. It's just like almost like a stenciling brush, and I'm just going to dip it in the matte Mod Podge. You could use watered down Elmer's glue. You could use, well, that's probably a good option, watered down Elmer's glue. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to squinch this up and open it up and squinch it up again. Especially if you have a paper bag, do this with the paper bag. So I'm going to actually put the Mod Podge on here, and I'm going to use a good liberal amount, meaning I'm not going to skimp. I do like, you know, kind of brushing it on and making sure it's somewhat even, but even that is not essential for this process. I'm trying to decide if I want this open or closed. Do I want it to be like a little flip out? Decisions. This one I closed. I'll close it. So I'm going to just glue it closed while I have my glue out. And this is messy. You could use like tacky glue too. That might be a good option. You could leave that open and have like a little place to tuck things or to wrap it around. I'm just gonna make a simple one for right now. So I have my glue down. It's all wet. And that is good. I've been watching some newer, to me, they're not new at all, tutorials on different things and different people, and just being really inspired to just try new things. So that's fun. Okay, so I've got my tissue, and I kind of want to preserve some of the wrinkles and kind of want to stretch it out a little bit. So I'm just kind of keeping those wrinkles there and pushing them down instead of flattening them out, because that's what's going to give us such nice texture. And the wrinkles do really help make it look like, I don't know, like faux leather. I mean, it's obvious to people that it's not real leather when you see it in person, but okay, I'm going to let that dry for like 5 minutes and then come back and do this part right here. So next time you see this, it'll be 5 minutes later. Okay, it's been about 6 minutes, and of course somebody is like leaf blowing outside, so I closed the window, but I'm going to do the same thing just right here to glue the stuff on the inside down. Just checking to make sure I'm in frame here. So I've done this kind of process throughout my life, actually. It's not new to me, but I've watched several artists over the years do it, and so I've just perfected it to what I like, what works for me. So you could take this and just kind of adapt it. So I still want to keep some of the wrinkles, and because when you, like on the inside of it here, you're still going to see a little bit of these wrinkles depending on how you line it. So I think I might just kind of do a little bit of cutting here, hacking it off. Again, I've been really into not measuring and just kind of eyeballing, and like I kind of made an imprecise cut right there. So what I can do is I can glue more down if I need to. So maybe I'll do that just to show you. I'll take a little piece that I cut off, and I'll glue this. Add some glue anyway. So I'll just glue this here, and then, yeah, glue it down. It is a little messy, but you know, I don't mind getting messy every now and then. And then there. And when you paint over it, it'll just look like a wrinkle. So I'm going to let this dry for another 5 minutes or so, and then I'll move on to the next step. And I do try to make sure that the edges or the corners are, you know, not too out of control there. And I'll cut off the stuff that's not glued down in a little bit. So that needs to dry for 5 more minutes. So, and I'm going to clean up my brush while I'm doing that, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. For you, it'll be 1 second. Okay, so it is dry, and I'm ready for the next step. I'm just going to cut these off. It's not actually dry, but it's like soaked in and kind of dry to the touch, so we can move on. It'll probably take a little while to dry, so there's a lot of glue right there. So I have this just to kind of protect my surface. I know it's kind of a little awkward, but this is going to be the cover. I'm trying to see which, that might be the front. We'll see. But it doesn't matter. So right now I'm going to take my medium tone. So remember I had a medium, a dark, and a light. Woo. Okay, so I'm going to take my medium tone, and you could use a brush. I am going to use, to start with, a sponge. So I'm just going to put a little bit out here. This one is burnt sienna, and I do really like this color for the leather look. And I'm going to saturate it, so I want to try and not see the background through for this first coat. So trying to get it in all the wrinkles. And, oh, my daughter's waking up from a nap. Don't you wish you could nap during the day? Have that be part of your day? I do sometimes. Okay, so you can see that's, yep. So I am just really trying to cover, you're going to cover this a couple of times. Let me go get her. Okay, so I'm going to keep covering it. Don't worry too much if the tissue or whatever you covered it with rips a little bit. That is not a problem. It'll just look like a wrinkle. I've had that happen to me before. Not really a big issue. One of the reasons I do like using the sponge is I can get a little amount, and so it ends up drying quicker. And also I can kind of hit like the highlights and the lowlights when I do my other colors, my other tones. So this is really monochromatic. If you wanted to do more of like a gray leather, you could use more gray browns. If you wanted to do a black leather, you could do some charcoals and graphite type colors. So kind of up to you as far as the colors. You do not have to do anything. It's your own art. You can do whatever you want. But I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do this color on the edges as well, so that I have some still here, so I'm going to use it up. You know, one person that I've watched do this a while ago, but I think it's the one that kind of brought it back into my head, was Dee Dee Willingham. So here's what I'm talking about. If it rips right here, don't worry about it. Just add some paint on top and wait for it to dry. That's kind of where I had the little issue on the previous layer. So it was kind of a weak spot anyway. It was kind of bound to tear and rip, and that's okay. Okay. So you would want to let this dry. This first coat is really important to let it dry. So mine is almost dry. So I'll turn the camera off and then give it 5 minutes, but it's really almost dry. It's wet in that it's like, you know, the tissue's wet, but as far as the actual paint layer, I think it's pretty dry. Maybe just want to touch up a little bit, but you do want the layers to dry in between, because then they don't blend. So that is a real thing. So I'm just going to kind of set it up here so it gets a little airflow and let it dry for a couple of minutes, and I'll be back. Okay, so it's dry enough for me to do the next step, which is to add a different color. And Personally, I like to add the darker. So this is bittersweet chocolate. Okay, shaking it up. And like I said, it's better if the layers don't blend. And this time I'm going to get some on my sponge and sponge it off a little bit. So I'm kind of doing that, okay? And I'm going to not press as hard. And if there's a place that it got too dark, you can wipe it off in any way you like. I just kind of turn that over. But I'm not trying to fully cover. It's kind of like, you know, inking like when you like ink an edge with Distress ink a little bit. I don't mind if the layer underneath is seen, and I kind of want to hit the nooks and crannies, like the valleys and the mountains. So definitely less is more. And you just want a variety of tones. So I'm just kind of going around. You might want a little darker around the edges, just if you think about, like, if it's been a leather journal for a while, it might have more handling around the edges, but it's kind of up to you. And my sponge is definitely shredding. That's okay, it just adds to the texture. If I do see any little places where there's still the under layers showing, I'm kind of trying to hit those. But I like the variety of darks and lights and not an even coat. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm totally shredding my sponge, and that's okay. Another good tool for this is a baby wipe. You can apply it just with a baby wipe, and that is great. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to use my dark again on this side just to kind of finish it off. And yeah, so it is a bright and sunny day. We were outside. It wasn't very warm, but it was bright and sunny. And I'll tell you, we need the sunshine. My plants need the sunshine. My children need the sunshine. I need the sunshine. Yeah, so thankful for the sun today. So winter's not my favorite, and it's been getting worse and worse winters. When I was a little kid, it only snowed like every 5 years or so. Now it's snowing almost every year, if not every year. This year we got so much snow, it was incredible. I think the most snow in 100 years. So, yeah. So I'm kind of, where there's little tears and stuff, I'm kind of going over, but that's mostly going to be covered up anyway. Okay, so that layer is pretty much almost dry because I really didn't add a lot of thick paint. It was a very thin coat. So I'm going to now do my light color, and this is honey brown. I'm actually going to change sponges, so one sec. Okay, so I have a new sponge just because I have a really light color. And this one, the same thing. It's like a dry brush. You might want to use a brush for this. Maybe I'll try that. Try a little brushing. But the idea, make sure I'm in focus, yes, is to just hit like the tops, and you know, I'm going to use my fingers. I don't actually like that texture that this brush gives, but it does bring out the texture. Can you see that? How much it brings out the wrinkles and stuff. But I'm going to show you what to do if you don't like it. So I am going to finish this layer with a sponge, and I'm going to wipe some of it off. And the beauty of this is you just keep going until you like the result. I think I want to switch to a baby wipe. So sorry I wasn't fully prepared for this tutorial, but a baby wipe is a really handy thing. So let me finish this layer. You can do as little as 3 layers, like this could be your final layer, or you can keep going, and I'm going to keep going to add kind of the depth of color that I want. And like, see, this is just washing it out, and it's just really not my favorite. And it's like shredding the sponge. So all is not lost. Let me go get a baby wipe. Okay, good thing I have kids, because these things are like all around the house. So let's see if this is still wet. It's not really still wet, but if you can, it is coming off a little bit. You can wipe away. But if you can't, I'll show you what you can do. So I am going to do this side just so we have the same thing going on both sides. But now that I'm remembering that, yeah, I actually used a baby wipe on the one that I have already done. On this one, I used a baby wipe. So I like that. So we'll switch over to baby wipe. If you have a baby wipe, start, you know, layer 2 and layer 3 with baby wipes. Oh, that's still really wet. That's why it's tearing. Okay. So okay. So again, it's mostly dry because it's so thin. There are some little bits. So I can see kind of where I rubbed this way, and I don't like that. So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to keep going. So I have my middle tone. Kind of tap it off. Maybe go the other way. That area just needs to like dry. Why is it when I video, like, everything happens? The cat meows, the neighbor blows their leaf blower. There's not even leaves, but not sure what they're blowing out there. And the neighbor kids are playing out there. It's loud, but that's okay. Okay, so then I'm gonna go again. I'm just doing little bits of color, little bits of layers. I think this is gonna really be, might even be the final layer. Trying to get those wrinkles and grooves all kind of to stand out. And when it fully dries, it's going to be even different. You know, it's going to be a little bit different. Want some more right there. So I'm trying to make it look worn and modeled. And these wrinkles with the first layer of tissue really help that. So you can hear the kids outside, and I think I just need to stop the video and take my kids outside because they will want to play with their neighbor friends, and the neighbor friends are out there, and it's sunny and it's Sunday and it's fun to play outside. It reminds me of my childhood playing outside. I'm glad that I live in a neighborhood where my kids can, they just like, I mean, I'm out there with them, don't get me wrong, they're not out there alone, but they can just run and play and have a nice, safe place to be. That's looking better. It's very gummy and very wet. I mean, it's not dripping or anything, but it's just so wet. So I think I'm going to, yeah, it looks so good right up here. Maybe a little lightness. Here's the light paint. Here we go. Okay. So areas where it's too dark, I'm adding light. Areas where it's too light, I'm adding dark. Kind of back and forth. Use your best judgment. Again, right there, I just need a little bit of like the base color to kind of saturate and fill in. So I'm gonna let this really dry for like, probably not 24 hours, but for a few hours. I'm gonna take my kids outside. And then you can use your fingers too. There we go. We'll come back and see what it looks like, see if we need to add anything. And it should end up kind of like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it and check on it in a few hours. Okay, so I don't know how many hours it is later, but it's later, and this is dry and feels good. It's a lot darker than this one, so I think I'm going to add another layer of the light. So you can see you can just make it however you want to make it, and I am going to use a baby wipe. I think that's the key. I had made this one a few months ago, so so let's use a baby wipe and just add in some lightness, but really this would be okay. This would be just fine. So I'm just gonna kind of rub it on and then rub it off so it just stays. Yep, it's the key is the baby wipe. So rubbing it on, and then the little, you know, moisture in the baby wipe just helps it get just in those cracks and crevices and makes it look super cool. So, forgot about that. And I had to go through the brush and the, yeah. It just brings out those wrinkles that make it look like leather so much. So that's pretty much it. Now, once you're done with this, I'll show you what I did to make it into like the book cover, and then there we go. So if you just see little areas that are too light or too dark, you can put lightness on them. That looks fantastic. So I'm just going to actually wipe up my, I don't know if you can see that, but okay. So that looks good. So I'm going to take all of this off of here, and here is now my cover. And what I did here was I actually scored it at 4 inches. And then this would be almost 4 inches. And this is 1 inch. How does that work? Seems to work okay. So 4 and 4 is 8, plus 1 inch is 9, and this is 9 inches. So I do have a scoreboard. It's not my favorite, but so I'm going to, man, I should put my glasses on, but 4 inches is right there. Let me see here. So that's 4 inches. Then I'm going to actually turn it over and do 4 inches here as well. 4, 5, That does look over 1 inch, but I think it, yeah, it is over 1 inch. But it'll work because it's 4 inches on each side, so if the center is a little bigger, no problemo. So you can use your bone folder. I try not to crease too much because you can make kind of lines. It's still a little wet. And then, so there is my cool journal. I don't know which side. I might go that side. And, you know, now seeing it, I kind of go, okay, so yeah, that's the little area where the closure is. So that, I'm going to make that the front so it'll be nice and stiff. I might want to add a little bit of darkness still to this, or lightness to that. So I just have, where did I wipe it up? There's a little bit. So yeah, so then with this one, I just added a little book plate, and this is actually some tea stained tracing paper, and I stamped a little like script stamp on it. So now I'm going to let this one dry. It looks super good. And I think I'll work on this one. And I want to put something on the inside here. Let me put this back. So I do have just some, a little issue here, there. Paper from, I have some old paper from Jubilee Day, Princess Elizabeth, when I was doing that journal, which I still need to finish. I finished one and gave it to my student teacher, but I don't know if I want that inside. Maybe I need to think about it for a minute and do another video. So that's how I made this cover. So thank you for joining me on this video. And if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.